What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to break down that thing you see on the screen. You know, all the time you see the little next gen stats, and you're trying to figure out, well, what is going on? Well, I figured I'd bring on someone that, actually does this. That would be Mr. Jay Holloway, Next Gen Stats. What's going on, man?
Man, feeling good, feeling great. It's been a great day. Thank you for having me on today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to get to next gen stats just a little later. But first, I do have to mention one of my sponsors, of course, that is Manscaped, manscaped.com. You can go there and get 20% off with free shipping with promo code AFC South. Again, 20% off at Manscaped plus free shipping with the promo code AFC South. You're welcome. A late Christmas gift for everyone. But, I want to kind of get to, before getting the next gen stats, like I always do, every show, the Get Off Your Chest segment. We talk about something that's bothering me. It's on my mind. And this has been on my mind since the beginning of the week. Now, I will tell you this. Let me give you a little bit of, information ahead of time. I did have two teams potentially making the playoffs out of the AFC South before the year. Now, those teams were the Jaguars and the Titans. Now, one of the teams I might be right on. The other team I'm definitely wrong on. It is what it is. You can't be right all the time. However, I will say that this division has been better than anyone thought it would be. Now, I know everyone is thinking about a particular division last year, and that would be the AFC West. And people they were thinking that was going to be the best division ever. And with all those talented quarterbacks, you had Herbert, you had Derek Carr, you had Russell Wilson, of course you had Patrick Mahomes. However, that division, no. You might only have one. You might have one team. You're gonna probably have one team coming out of that division. You may have that would be the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're more than likely going to be either 10-6, 10-7, or 11-6, which either which way. But those other teams, that would be the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. And we know the Chargers are going to end up with a losing record. But if you look at the Raiders, they've done well. They could be either 8 or 9 or 7-10 potentially after Sunday. Then you have the Broncos. They could be either 8 or 9 or 9-8. So you could potentially have 3 losing teams and 1 winning team in that division where everyone thought it was going to be solid. Now, let's go to a division where everyone thought everyone was going to be terrible except for the Jaguars. Let's take a look. You got the Jaguars at you got 3 and 9 and 7 teams, I should say. I'm sorry. You got the Jaguars, you've got the Colts, and you've got the Texans. So all 3 of those teams are going to end up with winning records. Then you have the Titans that is basically got the same record as the Chargers. And, just to kind of put a cap on this one, saying that the AFC South is not the worst division in the NFL, I'm going to go head to head. The Colts beat the Raiders. That happened recently. The Texans smoked the Broncos. And the Titans beat the Chargers at home in their home opener. Now, I could go on and talk a little bit more about that. You got the youth at quarterback in the AFC South as well as, you got the veterans or somewhat veterans in terms of the AFC West. But you just have to admit it. Let's go ahead. It's going to be okay. The AFC South was better than the AFC West this year, and it's not really close. The AFC West might actually have been one of the worst divisions in the NFL. Yes, I said it. You can quote me on it. Whatever show you want to put me on. The AFC West quite possibly is the worst division in the NFL this year. You got anything you want to add, Jay?
Man, I'm just going to say that I did not see this coming at all. I was right there with you. I thought the Titans were going to come out of the gate strong. I thought we were going to build off of what we had last year. And then all of a sudden it just kind of fell apart. And everyone was thinking, oh, yeah, Colts aren't going to do anything, Anthony Richardson. But then with that injury happening to Anthony Richardson, it was just like, oh, it's over for them. And next thing you know, Gardner Minshew is actually playing well. So that took everybody by shock. Another shocking thing, no one really thought the Texans were going to come out of the gate like they have. You got CJ Stroud been playing his mind off when he's healthy. So these were some pleasant surprises, especially from an Ohio State quarterback. We typically don't see Ohio State quarterbacks have this type of success in the NFL. So that caught me off guard. And then, everyone's talking about the Jags, being in playoff contention right now, but I was really disappointed with what I've seen this year from Trevor Lawrence. I thought he was going to take that huge next step. Everybody was like, he's the golden boy, the golden child. And he's been mediocre at best. And he's really been having to be carried by, his running game and some of his other offensive weapons. But that's all I got to say about the situation. I really didn't think that we could have potentially two teams coming from this division. But here we are now.
Yeah, definitely. And like in the words of T.I., we don't want no mediocre.
Yeah.
Pretty sure the Jacksonville Jaguars not wanting mediocre.
That's for sure.
But one thing that's not mediocre is Next Gen Stats. Now, Next Gen Stats, we're going to get into that, but I want to kind of get into your journey. Now, I want to ask, did you kind of grow up playing football, or did you just kind of, watch the game? How did you kind of get introduced?
So I got into football late. So I played football my fourth grade year, right? So I played football in fourth grade year, went out there, and I hated it. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know the strategy. I was just out there, and I was like, what in the world is happening? I told my mom, I was like, yo, if you sign me up for this fifth grade year, I'm just going to go out there and stand there. Like, I'm not doing this. Don't sign me up. And it wasn't until so that was fifth grade. I was like, I'm not playing. So I hung up the cleats. And then it wasn't until seventh and eighth grade year that I got into fantasy football. And so I really started understanding oh, these are the stats that I got to follow. All right, how many 100-yard games are they having? Or, how are these defenses performing? And then I really started watching the games, oh my gosh. And then the light bulb went off. So I played my eighth grade year. I'm a wide receiver. And it went all right. I was okay. I was okay. Better sport was basketball. And then my mom was like, oh, I don't want you getting concussions. So took me out of it. But after that year, after I got my fix that eighth grade year, then I just followed it through. I've been watching football ever since, what was that? Maybe 2012, and just keeping it up with it religiously during the season, during the off season. I love it. So that's kind of how I got into watching football. Born in Cincinnati, so I am a huge Bengals fan. That's my baby of a team. Grew up with them being terrible, and now that we've had this resurgence in Cincinnati, that's made me feel a lot better. But fantasy football really was the guiding factor that got me connected with the NFL, and then also through Next Gen Stats. So the way I got into the Next Gen Stats with the Titans was actually through my fantasy football team. So one of my friends one of my friends has a mom who works at Zebra Technologies. I don't know if you've heard of that company, but they were one of the companies that revolutionized the barcode scanner. So anytime you see an item that has, the barcode on it that gets scanned out, that was revolutionized by Zebra Technologies. And I had just moved to Nashville in 2020. Really awesome city. But as you might remember, that was the COVID year, right? So you had to have you had to be vaccinated in order to get in the locker rooms. And one of the things was someone who was on the Next Gen Stats team didn't want to get vaccinated. And so they said, hey, they asked me if I wanted the position. I did the interviews, passed with flying colors, and that's how I got my foot in the door with the Next Gen Stats, program with Zebra, and have been doing it ever since 2023. And it's been eye-opening now to kind of get that behind-the-scenes look at the entire show that goes on that's the NFL. So I absolutely love it, and ever since then, it's just been phenomenal. So that's kind of how I have gotten to there. I'm a journeyman. I've moved around my entire life, lived in 7 different states or so, but Tennessee is where I really started my Next Gen Stats career.
Gotcha. Now, of course we know your Next Gen Stats career. You kind of, introduced us or told us how that happened. But what did you want to be growing up before you even thought about next generation stats or anything? What did you want to be growing up?
Absolutely. So growing up, I'm 25 at the moment. So wanted to be a lot of different things. My first job that I wanted to be was a zoologist, but I've always had a passion for writing. I am a writer, a smooth operator when it comes to writing music. So I write hip hop music. I don't produce it, but I'm an awesome, what I like to call a lyricist. I even got a few scholarships for it. I won I don't know if you've heard of the Taco Bell Live Moss Foundation Scholarship, but they gave me $25,000 to go study. So I went to the University of Missouri, ended up studying finance and economics, graduated in 2020, and then moved down to Nashville. But the goal of being a famous musician has never left my heart, and I continue to write every day.
All right, all right. Now, you definitely went, told us about, joining Next Gen Stats and things like that. But I've got to ask, there's got to have been some jobs along the way that you're like, wow, I really did that before I did this. What was that one job?
Man, the one job that I did, so I was a leasing agent at an apartment complex. And for when I was in college, that was like my college job. I did it all 4 years. And what was crazy about that job was like, everyone's like, oh yeah, leasing agent, you got to go, tour the apartment, sell them to people. But the worst part about that job, I had to be on call like 24/7. So at this place, all the doors automatically lock as soon as you close that door. And college students are forgetting their keys nonstop. So if someone was locked out at 3 a.m, I had to have my phone on at all times in case someone was locked out. And that was just like, I get PTSD sometimes from anytime I hear the iPhone ring. I'm like, oh, like, is that another call? Like, thank goodness I don't have to worry about that. But that was the one job that I'm like, dang. Other than that, I coached basketball growing up. I was a mentor for the kids in my community as far as coaching basketball. But that job was, oh my goodness. Yeah. The other job that I have right now that most people would not think of right now, I work for Altria, and they do sell Marlboro. So when I'm not working with the Next Gen Stats program, I am working with Altria and their tobacco initiatives. And everyone's like, "Why tobacco? Like, what in the world how did those things connect?" And I'm not a tobacco smoker, but that's the thing. That's the thing. People are like, "Why? Like tobacco, nicotine? I don't do any of that stuff." But they're really working towards the next, like as far as next generation of stats, they're working on the next generation of nicotine and moving beyond nicotine and smoking. So I'm really happy that I get to help basically move both of these industries forward at the same time.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we've got to know you a little more. We're going to get to know next generation stats. But before we do that, we do have to take a quick commercial break on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back. And before the commercial break, I did talk about Next Gen Stats and kind of learning about it because, of course, everyone wonders. They see that Next Gen Stat popped up, and it's just like, what is this? What's going on? So I have to ask you, where exactly did Next Gen Stats come from?
Right. So the NFL is always trying to understand more about their players, whether it's player safety, whether it's player performance data, using sports, using this technology to basically do future projections, right? And so it all started in about 2012, 2013 with Zebra Technologies. So Zebra Technologies was first. We started like putting RFID tags in the players on the shoulder pads and basically just testing it with a couple teams, seeing like, hey, Are players able to tell that, we're tracking them on the field? And then we moved into moving it with footballs, just like understanding, like, oh, how fast did that football travel on that specific play? Or then again, like, hey, where are the refs located on like their positioning on the field, understanding where they're at. And that, as those seasons kind of progress, we first started doing it at practices. We even started doing it at some college facilities like Ohio State. We actually track those players as well. But started with there, just like understanding where are the players going, how fast are they running on the field. And then that has evolved to as far as like understanding a deeper metric. So as you know, you're familiar with regular stats. You got pass attempts, you got yards, stuff like that. Well, a next gen stats will be able to tell you basically like deeper understanding. So like, hey, what is this player's like cover percentage? Like if I'm looking at DeAndre Hopkins, like understanding, oh, he does so much better when players are playing man on him versus whether they are in zone. Understanding stuff like that. And that is basically what a next gen stats. How do we get pull back the layers of these stats? Because they say numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the full picture. And so that's what the understanding of next gen stats is.
So definitely, it sounds like kind of breaking it down to the nitty gritty, the kind of the basic. Like, say if a guy does well against the blitz, or he has this percentage against the run or unbalanced lines and things like that as well.
Exactly.
Am I in the right vein there?
Absolutely. As far as looking at how are they against the blitz, how are they against the run, what are they like, but how long are they spending behind the line of scrimmage? What is like their efficiency metrics to really understand this player's performance instead of just looking at the box score? Because, a basketball reference, where people are, they call it stat padding, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, they make the box score look good at the end of the day. But if you're watching the game, like, you know what, I don't think it played out like that. It doesn't tell the full story. So that's basically what the next gen stats are.
Okay. And then the kind of how do I know that players or coaches, I should say, and probably organizations keep up with these type of things. So how do those kind of play in the evaluation of a player's game or how they performed on the field that day?
Oh, absolutely. So we send the next gen stats to each team at the beginning of each week, so they're able to see everything as far as blitz probabilities for blitzes and stuff like that. But as far as what each of how the coaches choose to use it, that's up to each specific team. So my kind of role in the operations is I make sure that every day on game day, I am there bright and early, 6 a.m. But I work with all the equipment managers and make sure that every player is activated, turned on, and verified, so that players, the balls, all the equipment in the facility, such as sticks and chains, referees, are all tracking. And the coolest part is during the game. So when I'm up in the press box, after we've got everything turned on, lighting up, looking good, then I am play logging. So I make sure that every play that happens, whether it is, huddle start, huddle stop, line set, ball snap, understanding if this was a completion, incompletion, was the touchdown thrown in the end zone, was it caught outside of the end zone, making sure all of that data is nice and clean. So when we do send it to Amazon Web Services for processing, they have the most accurate data. So my job also part of it is play logging, and then part of it is play editing. So you have the play editor who is making sure after the play is logged by the person, I kind of call it like, it's like almost like a joystick, almost like playing Madden, right? Play Madden. But the play logger is logging the game basically with a Madden-like controls. The play editor takes the timing of those events and making sure that those are added, those are lined up, so that, when we see the ball moving on the screen, that it matches up when the ball is moving when he hit the button. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, definitely does. It's almost like you're playing a video game, but not really playing a video game at the same time.
A real life video. It's almost like
right.
It feels almost like when I'm doing play log, when I'm logging the plays, it's like, oh my gosh, like, am I controlling these actions or these events? And it's super fascinating. I've never watch the football more intensely when I'm doing play logger because you have to understand like, oh shoot, I have to be on it with these events. Like the ball snap, was that a fumble? Was that a fumble recovered by the offense, recovered by the defense? Was the flag thrown? How fast was it? The timing of the timeouts. When are the TV timeouts exactly the right length that they should be? It really has opened my eyes to being very shrewd in the way that I watch the game now that I'm working with Next Gen Stats.
Got you. Now, I do want to kind of dive into this because so give everyone a even fuller picture.
Yeah.
Now, the best running back in the NFL right now in terms of rushing is Christian McCaffrey.
Of course.
1,459 yards. But what is some way in terms of that he's not at the top? Like, is it against the blitz, or is there a better running back in terms of a different kind of stats for him? Not for him, but for in general, there's running backs that are better than him in certain stats.
Right. So I'm 100% with you. Christian McCaffrey he's amazing, but some running backs that are better than him in other stuff, as far as like we talked about efficiency. So like, hey, given how many attempts that you have, giving how fast and what type of coverages, Devon Achane actually is one of the most efficient backs in the league as far as looking at his efficiency measures. And then efficiency can be measured by the total distance a player travels when rushing the ball, according to our Next Gen Stats. Looking at or his rushing yards gain. So he's more of a north-south runner, whereas Christian McCaffrey does a lot of side-to-side movements. You know what I mean? He's running east to west sometimes, so makes him less efficient. But one thing about Christian McCaffrey that I do think is impressive is that he sees 8 in the box more than any other rusher. And that's why, even though he is the best when it comes to 1,400 total rushing yards, the fact that he's being able to do that, he sees 8 in the box 36% of the time, which is ridiculous. Most people don't see 8 in the box that often. And the next person who sees 8 in the box, Derrick Henry, sees it 34% of the time, and he's only at 1,000 rushing yards this year, right? So looking at some of those differences is like, oh shoot, the great ones stand out like crazy when you compare the Next Gen Stats to them.
Definitely. And you spoke about DeAndre Hopkins, but I did want to talk about Tyreek Hill, 1,717 yards receiving this year. But you did mention something about DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm pretty sure DeAndre Hopkins either close or passed him in some of the Next Gen Stats. If I'm guessing, you tell me I'm wrong, but hey, I'm thinking he might be.
DeAndre Hopkins his Next Gen Stats are pretty good. I haven't dove deep, like super deep into his Next Gen Stats. But what I really do, I know that he crushes in man coverage. I know that a lot of teams will want to play zone against him, and because he's able to bully cornerbacks. Now, I know that he's getting older. He's not as dominant as he was before. But looking at some of those Next Gen Stats on him, I imagine that he crushes it in a lot of those areas.
Gotcha. And lastly, of course, quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are scrutinized by passing yards, completion percentage, what team they play for, who they have around them, all those different things as well. Quarterbacks is Tua. Tua is always talked about what he has around him as opposed to what he can actually do. But he actually does lead the NFL in passing yards right now, even though he did get crushed by the Ravens. But I won't say that too loud for any Dolphins fans. But but even with that, I find it kind of similar between him and Brock Purdy. I think they're kind of similar in terms of, they're talked about in the same vein. And I'm pretty sure probably their Next Gen Stats are probably pretty similar or close to each other in some sense as well. They are a product of the same style of offense, by the way. So.
Similar style of offense. I will say that Tua gets the nod in my book just because of he has great weapons and how fast he gets the ball out. If you look at his Next Gen Stats, like he leads the league as far as like when he gets the ball out under 2.5 seconds. He leads the league in passing attempts, passing yards, and passing touchdowns when he is able to fire that ball. Whereas Brock Purdy, on the other hand, kind of has to wait a little bit. A lot of Brock Purdy's passes, again, are right at the line of scrimmage. If you, I don't know if you've seen some of those the charts, and he kind of lets his weapons get all the yak yards for him. So in my book, I give Tua the nod ahead over him just because I have seen his next gen stats a little bit closer.
Okay. All right. So, just want to give everyone a little bit more familiarity with Nation Stats, but we have reached the end of the show, and there is a game at the end of the show. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to go with Drake to start out. You got to pick one song, God's Plan or Hotline Bling. Which one you taking?
I'm going God's Plan.
God's Plan. I thought you might get a little Hotline Bling, but he gave you the little bitty dance in there. But I was like, yeah, Drake, you can save that one, man.
Oh my goodness, I love them both. Both, huge Drake fan. I love them both.
Mm-hmm. Got you. All right, you got one running back you got to take. You're going to take DeAndre Swift of the Eagles or Kyron Williams of the Rams.
Oh my goodness, I am going to have to go with Kyron Williams, just because. Well, what's the situation?
Oh, you just need one back to win.
Just to win? I'm going Kyron Williams because on the goal line he's spectacular, and it seems to me that DeAndre Swift is allergic to the goal line.
There we go.
Never wants to get in the end zone.
All right, we're going with J. Cole next one. No Role Models or Wet Dreams. Which one you like off 2014 Forest Hills Drive the most?
No Role Models. I love that one.
Yeah, both of those songs are nice though. Both of them.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and next question. Ravens or 49ers? Who do you like making it to the Super Bowl out of their conference the most?
Oh, who do I think is going to make it out of their conference the most? I think, okay. Honestly, I think the Ravens have an easier path to make it out, to make it to the Super Bowl. But if you ask me who do I think will win, I would pick the 49ers. But I think the Ravens have an easier path. I don't think the AFC is as strong as it once was. With the competition that's out there, so I do think the way Lamar Jackson has been playing has literally been phenomenal. So I like the Ravens. I think the Ravens have an easier path, but if they both meet, I think the 49ers win it.
All right. Now I do have some Ravens fans that watch, man. So just wanted to let you know, or listen, I should say. Okay, and the last question, we're gonna keep it AFC South on this one. You got to pick one quarterback for the next 5 years. Are you taking C.J. Stroud or Trevor Lawrence?
C.J. Stroud, without question. The man has a cannon. The man can do it all. Trevor Lawrence, I'm just not seeing it. But I will say the dark horse in the AFC South, is Will Levis. I see flashes out of Will Levis that I have not seen out of many other rookie quarterbacks. So I'm very impressed with him, but C.J. Stroud for sure is my pick over Trevor Lawrence.
And what's going to be amazing is all these young quarterbacks in this division. Well, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the old man of the club, but you've got Anthony Richardson, you got Will Levis, and you got C.J. Stroud, which that's going to be interesting just to watch them all develop. Of course, Trevor is a little bit further along in terms of years, not development, but years. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Well, Jay, it's been a great show. I want to thank you for coming on. I wanted to give you a moment to tell everyone where they can find you on social media and any other things you're working on, and of course, where they can find Next Gen Stats.
Absolutely. You can find Next Gen Stats at nextgenstats.nfl.com. You can find me, Jay Holloway, on social medias at the capital J. That is TheCaipitoljay. Find me everywhere. I am also working on music, working on my next new project. Really excited to release that, called Easily Amused. Should be out early 2024. So be on the lookout. Thanks again, guys.
All right. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you for coming on. Of course, I'm Mike Patton. I'm the host of Touring the AFC South. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton82. Yeah, I had to pay that ode to Prince. The artist formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, I love that.
Then as far as on on Instagram and Threads, you can find me there at that's THA, not THE _general_MP. Of course, Touring the AFC South. You can find it on all listening platforms, whether it be Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and much, much more, as well as YouTube as well. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.